discussing disinformation and all the fear-mongering on Alex Jones and a ton of other channels. Okay. Yes, our country is on the verge of some great changes for the worst in the beginning, as far as people have to readjust their lifestyle. I mean, if you go to the store and look at the price of food, it's funny because I went back to vegetarian and all that stuff's still really cheap, like vegetables and oatmeal and stuff like that, pancake mix, only buy the natural stuff. And I went and looked at a roll of hamburger, and it was like $23 for a roll of hamburger. That's up 175% in a little over a year. That's not sustainable. So, a crash always shows itself in the meat first, because you can't hide that as easy, because it's a commodity that requires huge amounts of water, like chickens and cows and, all this different kind of meat, turkeys, huge amounts of feed, antibiotics, sadly growth hormones, and all this stuff. It's very expensive to raise a cow, right? And you shouldn't eat mammal products anyway, because you're a mammal, and so it's hard on your chakras. I don't really have a problem with fish or humanely raised poultry, but even then, I'm trying to do as little of that as possible. But a mammalian shouldn't eat another mammalian. It just kind of goes, it's not good. But anyway, yeah, the disinfo out there on, they're showing these drills in major cities in Florida. Well, there's been tens of thousands of UN vehicles in Florida for a long time, probably for several years, parked at the airports and stuff, out on their big open fields. Well, the DHS, FEMA, the United Nations, these agencies aren't, combat-ready agencies, nor are they trained for guerrilla warfare against civilian populations. So that's not what they're there for. And, showing these Black Hawk helicopters flying around Miami or whatever, and then using that as a scare tactic on people. They're doing emergency disaster drills, okay? And if you see those people on that one video, as they're being rounded up, well, if you look at the people, they all got their hands on each other's shoulders. That's what they do during an emergency, or when it's hard to see, or when there's fire, or whatever, or they're evacuating somewhere. They do that so, the person leading out of the building or leaving the disaster area, takes everybody else with them. That's why you put your hands on each other's shoulders. But people, you don't understand logistics, okay? If you haven't served in the military, even if you have, a lot of you guys don't understand logistics. And it's not logistically or militarily possible to garrison even one city in America, okay? I know a lot of veterans and bikers and even older veterans, and that's just not going to happen. Their numbers are far too small. If you combine them all, United Nations, DHS, FEMA, our own National Guard, that's only a few million people. That's all of them put together. A few million, that's not enough to do anything. Okay? Even if you were to let them descend all into, several counties, well, just through the underground and the grapevine, everybody else would hear about this, excuse me, and when they tried it in the next town or city or county, they'd be mowed down like a weed whipper hitting weeds. It's just not going to happen, so, sorry. It's just it boils down to simple math, okay? Let me see. One guy trying to garrison, 2,000. And that's what you're telling me, Alex Jones and all these other guys spreading out. Oh, they're going to invade Texas. The federal government's preparing to attack Texas. Well, they couldn't even take on Afghanistan. Okay, a third world country, tribal people. They couldn't even take on Afghanistan. 14 years in the Middle East, and they've accomplished absolutely nothing. And we have, thousands of times more guns than Afghanistan. And geologically speaking, geographically, this nation is huge. Okay, it's not possible. I'm so sick of hearing this. These FEMA emergency relocation centers, there's a lot of conspiracy theories, the barbed wires facing in and all this stuff. Well, yeah, because there's going to be a lot of criminal activity when the system crashes. And but if you look at sheer numbers, they're only set up to handle a few million people. Well, that would be the number of violent criminals. But 340 million people? No, it's never going to happen. It's not, when I say that, it's because it can't happen. It's just, it cannot happen. Sorry. When Americans lose everything and they have nothing left to lose, they will lose it, okay? So far, most of you all have only seen black people riot. You haven't seen nothing yet. You haven't seen the angry white man yet, okay? And we don't burn cities down, white people get guns and start shooting, okay? That's the difference. So, it's all fear-mongering. Look at the National Guard and the police in St. Louis. They only show on the media what they want you to see. That looks like, the government's maintaining control. Believe me, if the people get mad enough in St. Louis, now that the weather is warming up, it's going to be a civil war there, and then you'll see what I mean. Because, they'll be forced to withdraw real quick. They don't have the numbers. It's all about numbers. I'm not advocating any of this stuff. Believe me, it's not my choice. I'm anti-violent and anti-meat eating, but what happens when you get 50 guys in a tree, even with 22 rifles, surrounding the police and National Guard, from about a quarter-mile distance. And they all start shooting off 10, 20 rounds at a time. That's the end. It's over. You can't fight an enemy like that. That's called guerrilla warfare. We got our asses kicked in Vietnam and came home with no victory. Iraq, Korea, World War II, that was no victory. The Nazis now run our country. How is that a victory? Project Paperclip. It's all fear-mongering. And they do it on purpose because, it changes people's behavior. So they think. That's the idea. But you still have, over 100 million avid gun owners. It's actually more than that. But well over 100 million avid gun owners. And I'd say 10% of them will come out shooting. That's 10 million. And once they start shooting, the others will follow suit pretty quick. It's just, so, let Russian troops come on the soil and UN, under the UN beanie, German and French troops. Let them all come in, 'cause they won't leave here. They may come here, but they won't leave. I guarantee you that much. We're not, 1939, Polish and German Jews. We're armed and the American people are really pissed. So, this is all fear-mongering. So what? A couple Black Hawk helicopters and a couple thugs and, their Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle outfit. So what? You surround that whole area with, 100 men that are good hunters with a 270 and a scope, and that's the whole end of that deal, okay? It's not a winnable situation, and I'm sick of all these people on alternative radio talking like, we gotta fear all these agencies. Those agencies only number all of them together. United Nations, FEMA, DHS, National Guard, etc. you're only looking at a few million people, versus the might of the United States citizenry. Okay. So yeah, you'll be all right. Like I'd say, be asymmetrical. If you see armed, roving people or, an armed, bunch of vehicles coming down your road, yeah, get the hell away from that area. Disappear, out of sight, out of mind. It's called asymmetry, okay? They're prepared for symmetry. They're head-on, meetings with other people. They're prepared for that. But if you're asymmetrical, you have little walkie-talkies. You say, hey, there's 50 military vehicles coming down this road. Okay, thanks. Go dead, radio silence and, get the hell out of there. And when I say get the hell out of there, I mean lay low and have some good camo, in case they have any flyovers. And that's how you win a war. Cause they only have so many resources, so much fuel. I've been watching these wars since I was a kid. And, the country's bankrupt right now. Our soldiers are spread out so thin, it's like a layer of paint, across the planet. Same with the United Nations, they're spread out very thin. NATO troops spread out very thin. The federal government's scared shitless, and, when they talk about these drills they're doing to supposedly invade Texas, that's for national emergency disaster planning and stuff. They're not going to go in there with a big attitude because it won't last real long, especially at this point in time. It won't last very long at all. So, it's stop listening to disinformation. Alex Jones is a disinfo, insider, big time. Pete Santilli, he's just a liar and, quasi-Christian, psycho. And, Project Camelot, she's just a feel-good, white hat, white knight bullshit artist, okay? She's really disinfo. Look at the people she interviews. I mean, those people have, they're like one chromosome short of being retarded. So stop listening to this stuff, We gotta focus on the positive, even though the human race, leaves a lot to be desired, as far as, how stupid most people are, and how mean they are to each other, and mean they are to animals, and how they raise their own children. Children, the reason we have a society of sick children, spiritually sick and physically sick, is they weren't given love. And when you're a tiny little puppy, or a tiny little baby, or a tiny little, kitten, or a tiny little girl, these little tiny life forms need unconditional love from both parents, okay? That's the way mankind is supposed to function. Well, we haven't had two-parent families for, 3 generations. Very few. And even the ones that had two-parent families, they both work so much, they never see the kid, except for at night, and he or she's high and hanging around with the wrong elements in society, and, yeah, this breeds, narcissism and psychopathy, and, the kids withdraw, become antisocial, and then, they keep the pharmaceutical drug companies in business, and, the local street pot dealer in business or whatever. I'm not anti-pot, trust me, but, I don't think it's for kids. I think people should be the age of majority to smoke pot, I think all drugs should be legal, except for, like, crystal meth and crack and heroin and stuff like that. There'd have to be strict laws against that stuff. Here's the strict law. If you want to do that shit on your own property and not harm anybody, and, which is hard to do, because when you make crystal meth, you pollute the streams and the water table, and there's powerful chemicals involved. So those kind of people, when caught, would have to be dealt with, very harshly. So they don't have any desire to ever do it again, because it's very dangerous to the community they live in and the ecosystem, much less, themselves and any children that might get messed up on it. Same with crack. But if you legalize everything else, like powder cocaine, marijuana, opiates, legalize it and, put a flat tax on it. And, offer, rehabilitation centers or, counseling for people that really want to get off of it. But if somebody screws up while using these substances and harms another person, hang them. It sounds harsh, but that's how you put the kibosh on crime, Under Maritime Admiralty law, first offense burglary is only 30 days in jail. That's typical. I mean, so if I burglarize your house and take your most prized possessions and get caught at the local pawn shop pawning off your 38 or whatever, your Rolex, 30 days, that's it. Under the Constitution, first-time burglary is, firing squad. Now, which one does it sound like is going to, quash the most crime to you? The Constitution or Maritime Admiralty law? The law of banking, the law of water, fiction, limited liability, that's what it is. Because they want you back on the street. You're generating money for them. You're a commodity. Okay? You're a prorated, human resource. It's disgusting, and the only way it's going to stop is, the whole system crashing, and they know that. And but they don't have any power left. You need to have a strong currency to have any power. That's what destroyed Rome. Got the Roman Senate, all killed off by the Roman soldiers. All these giant empires died when their currency died. That's what's going on right now with America. So that's why they're starting all these wars, to try and keep their currency alive and blackmail, like Merkel from Germany. She's being blackmailed, I'm sure. I'm sure a lot of these countries are being blackmailed to continue using the US dollar as their reserve currency. That's what's going on, but it's not going to last much longer. America's become, murder incorporated, going into country after country, just slaughtering everybody with drones, and it's millions of dead and, maimed men, women, and children since, like, the early 90s. And if you want to go back further than that, to all the other little skirmishes, it's over 150 wars, just in my lifetime. Most of them, not big enough skirmishes to make the newspaper. Like, remember Grenada, a little tiny island? Like the size of, it's tiny. It might be the size of, some of the Keys in Florida. You remember that? Remember Kosovo? All the African, skirmishes going on right now with American troops in Africa that they never talk about. Yeah, it's over 150 countries, So that, Great Britain, America, they've been spying on everybody, starting wars everywhere. They're criminally insane. And, thank God their currencies, will hopefully die, or hopefully something happens. Because, if President Reagan was here, he wouldn't know what to think right now. This is his worst nightmare come true. He wouldn't know what to think. He would think the Nazis took over America. Militarized police, no regard for the law whatsoever, which is the Constitution, and every country has a constitution of some sort. In Canada, it's called the Charter of Rights, and and you're supposed to follow that, principle, the basic fundamentals of your law. And if other laws that you write aren't in congruence with, the fundamental law of the Constitution, then those laws, are unlawful, and they can't abrogate people's rights. So that's all I got for today. But yeah, stop listening to the fear mongering. It's all bullshit. And there's enough people that just won't put up with it. In other words, that are going to come out shooting. If even 5 million people come out shooting, and take out 2 or 3 of them, well, that's the end of their whole charade. I mean, and I'm putting them all together. And they don't even have that many numbers, really. Please, look at logistics. You see all this, hardware and little exercises. Yeah, well, this is a giant, geographical area, United States. But they scare the people with a few Black Hawk helicopters and a few drills. It's a joke. It's a complete bloody joke. I'm not the least bit afraid of it. My biggest fear is zombie people who ran out of Prozac, and zombie people who, don't know how to feed themselves or whatever. That's my biggest fear, is the general populace, not governments or UN or whatever. If they even show a hint of aggression towards the people in this country, they'll be turned into Swiss cheese real quick. That's where we are. And so, turn off the fear-mongering Alex Jones bullshit. The problems with Alex Jones is he'll have a few good guests, like Paul Craig Roberts, I think his name is. I like him, that worked for President Reagan. He'll have a few good guests, but, he's pushing his product line. He's making millions, It's a proven fact Alex Jones is a hoax. It's a proven fact his real name was Bill Hicks, with a little bit of face surgery, and that's what these kind of guys are. These crazy, insane actors. They're crazy. Or eccentric. So they always live something you will never be able to wrap your mind around. But it's the same guy, Where was Bill Hicks from? Texas. Does Alex sound like a 1960s child's name? Okay, pull me up one kid named Alex in 63 or 64. Because that's his real age. He was probably actually born in 62. So he's lied about his age forever. He says he's 41. Look at the guy. He looks like he's 58. Okay, but pull me up one Alex from that era, from the 60s. Bill sounds a lot more accurate for a Texan name, and all the other evidence they have that Alex Jones is a fraud. He's a CIA Jesuit asset, Zionist. He never complains about Zionism or the Khazars. Did you notice that? If somebody does try and call him out on it, he disconnects them. Because he knows he doesn't have any sustainable argument, to support his position. So that's the world we're living in. Like Ronnie James Dio said, if it seems to be real, it's illusion, And that's very profound words, okay? Especially in what it implicates. So anyway, that's all I have for today. So, turn off the fear and start planting gardens. It doesn't hurt to have, some Israeli gas masks. They're cheap on Amazon. They're cheap to find, children and adult size, delivered to your house for $20. It doesn't hurt to have that stuff. Because when the war does start, the big war, it's coming. Don't worry about troops on the ground. No, that's not how we do war nowadays. We use cruise missiles, okay? And this country's too big to send up any kind of a mop-up crew. The militias will take over very quickly. Sadly, the gangs will take over, major cities. And, welcome to the Banana Republic, USA. So, alright, thank you for listening to The Real World Show with Steve and John Miller, and I'll talk to you soon.